Alex Baud. Thanks for joining.
Pleasure.
So, Alex, I'm particularly excited to actually interview you because you're not scared of commitment. So, you have been at CMSPI for nearly 10 years, and it's almost kind of like an American dream story to some extent. I feel like if you keep going at this trajectory, you're going to be the CEO very, very soon. But anyway, yeah, it would be great to get some backgrounds because you've been at this one company for so long and literally worked your way up through the marketing ranks to head of ABM. But yeah, I'll let you kind of debunk that. And like, was that a personal choice for you to move into ABM, for example, or was it like more driven from the company perspective?
It was almost by accident. So I started in the marketing department in 2017 doing some very, not basic, but introductory marketing tasks and management. So looking after the website, email campaigns, social media, that kind of things. But very, very quickly, I developed an appetite for sales and business development marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So I started working more and more with the sales department, trying to customize as much as possible the marketing campaigns, making them more relevant for different verticals, different types of businesses. And at some point, I was basically not working with marketing anymore. I was day to day with the salespeople, trying to understand where the struggles were, what they were trying to sell, what was more adapted for this market or that market. And I got kind of drafted in the sales department in 2019. So I'm actually not really working in marketing anymore. And ABM is not marketing in my perspective. And then, basically through more and more customization of our marketing initiatives to support sales, one day I remember, I was attending a conference and there's a guy who described what I was trying to do on a daily basis very, very precisely and gave it a name called ABM. And I was like, this is what I do actually. I'm not really a marketer anymore. I'm an ABM guy. So I started researching what it was, how to become better at it, etc., and how to implement it in our business. So I did an internal program called Future Leaders Program. And obviously after that training, you have to implement an idea into the business that you've kind of curated during that leadership program. And that was ABM. And it's been a great success, not just because of me, but because I've had the support of all my colleagues in leadership. And that's probably something we're going to discuss later. And here we are today. So that's kind of my story and the story of ABM at CMSPI.
Alex, you're being too humble. I'm sure you drove most of the success there. No, but it's interesting what you say. It is more of like almost a sales play, and that I prefer ABX, but I mean ABX Answered didn't really flow as well. So I thought, all right,
what does it X stand for you?
Experience. So it's like you're targeting a set of accounts, right? And it's a case of like from like literally initial engagement to like customer experience, the whole thing, customer success, the whole thing is about just curating. It's just good marketing, good sales combined. And I think, ABM, ABX, and then there's a load of other terms get slapped on it. But the reason why I personally like it, not that you asked, is because it's typically you find more sales-driven marketers. Like they've got a good brain. It's not a case of just slapping up a billboard somewhere. It's very, very targeted. Right, Alex, what I have done today, you've kindly offered to share your wisdom with us. So I have collated a number of challenges from the community. And what we're going to do is we're going to rattle them off one by one. So are you ready for challenge one?
I'm ready.
We really do need some sound effects. I keep saying that when that happens. Right. Tough start came in from Alex Papas around measurement and kind of reporting. His question is, what's been your best success in showing attribution and impact across your ABM strategies? And I know you from what I've seen on LinkedIn, you've been killing it with the whole one-to-one campaigns, but also like the ABM Lite campaigns as well. And I don't know if that differs, but take it away.
So in my opinion, if you want to have the best possible reporting and measure tangible success in your programs, you have to understand where you start from with your accounts, whether you have 1 or 10 at the beginning of the program. So really do that work of analyzing the situation where you are, and this is your starting point. And then in 6 months, measure it again. Have you moved and have you made tangible progress towards a signature, a renewal, an improved customer feedback, or whatever you're trying to achieve with your your ABM program. So I mainly do ABM for new accounts. That's the hardest style of ABM. And most of the time you start from absolutely nowhere. So it's kind of easy to show progress when you start from 0, because if you get to 2, you're like, hey, we've progressed. But you want to be able to show what actions have helped you progress your accounts. And when it comes to this, I try not to pay attention too much to the marketing metrics. And I've mentioned before, I'm measuring tangible results. I don't really care if someone clicks a campaign 20 times and go on the website half an hour every day or every week. Have we spoken to that person? If we want to have a quick coffee with them at the next conference, are they going to accept? Yes, no. Because I have people on my website every 2 or 3 days. But if I email them, or if one of my sales reps email them, they won't respond. So yes, my purely marketing metrics are really good. Email engagement, website visits, follow the company on LinkedIn, all that kind of stuff. But in the real world of business, what matters are conversations. So I'm trying to track those things and move away from the traditional marketing metrics, because again, ABM is not really marketing anymore. So I mainly track what the sales team would track in terms of success and metrics, because that's what gets you signatures, real conversations, lunches with the clients or the prospect, etc. That's what I try to measure.
Alex, this is awesome. And again, what we just spoke about, having like a sales-driven mind going into marketing actually benefits. And I was going to ask you, okay, then what does reporting look like to higher up? But it sounds like you're aligning yourself with sales metrics more often than marketing. I guess I'll keep the following questions to a minimum because we're short on time. But I am curious just on this one, how, like, there's a divide of like, what did marketing do? What did sales do kind of thing? And, typically I find like the closer you get to the sale, once it's closed, sales just want to take all the credit. How do you balance that? Is that simply a case of you having really good relationships with them because you've worked with them for so long that those teams, you understand them? But like, how do you, because marketers do have to fight for attribute, like fight for the limelight, so to speak, sometimes. So how do you kind of secure that in your organization?
So we very often debrief on, how did we land this sale? How did we get this contract? Bespoke content for specific targets. So it's very easy to find this content and say, hey, this is what we created at the start for this client or this target. And it stays, document are stored somewhere. And in the way we do things, we try and centralize the resources that helped us create engagement with an account. So it's very difficult to ignore something that has been created before and is still here. This is what started the conversation. This is the blog. This is the infographic that helped us break into the business and initiate that first chat.
Does the actual format though, is it's literally, if it's a one-to-one campaign, sure, like I'd take the next 6 months off. But like, do you like sit around a table and like, here you've got all the kind of leaders and you kind of have it out, or is it like, are you fighting over email? Like, I imagine it would be quite nice to actually debrief almost in person or on a call and kind of go around the room. That's
kind of what we do, a debrief. And also the best kind of testament to the work, marketing does or sales does is if you've done a good piece of content and that helps secure a business, you can be sure that the next big business they're trying to secure, they're going to ask for something similar. You did a good blog or a good discussion document or infographic for a business, you win it. 2 or 3 weeks later, you can expect, hey, let's do the same for that enterprise. And that's the best. The request is a compliment at that point.
The request is a compliment. That is wonderful. Yeah, because Sarab Sanghi, I interviewed him and I asked him Chelsea's question, which is what's like a hidden metric that no one ever tracks, which actually is valuable. And he went content utilization by sales. Like how often do they use certain assets? Wow, bang on. Right, we're going to have to do quick fire even after question 1 here, but it's fine. Challenge 2, ABM on a budget. It came in from Jillian Condamudi. She works at Akamai. She asked, what should a solo ABM practitioner do with no budget? Where should they start and how should they do it?
Sales alignment. Because you can have the biggest budget in the world, have all the martech you want, anything. If you don't have a team that's going to play the game with you, you're not going to achieve anything. So that's where I started. I had very little budget. We had traditional marketing tools, but nothing, extremely fancy in terms of martech. But we had marketing and sales alignment. We had the same objective. We were a team. And, you're not going to make any progress if you don't have a dedicated SDR who's going to send that workshop invite to that specific prospect you need to get, and send it in a personal way with customization, trying to really build a real relationship. You're not going to have that. So you can have a super expensive marketing tool to send those invites. They're not going to be as impactful as a real human connection. So if you don't have much budget, start with the best sales alignment as possible. Because eventually, if you pitch to sales, okay, I'm going to try and help you secure bigger deals with bigger accounts. Well, that's what they're trying to do anyway. So they'll be aligned with it. So make sure you've got that alignment, because that's free. Just maybe it takes a bit of convincing and pitching, but that's easier than securing 200,000 budget for next year.
For 100%. And also you're starting off the first party insights, and then from there you've got a good baseline there's that saying that constraints fuel creativity as well. So like you can get kind of scrappy after that, but you've got to know where you go. Okay, solid answer. Next question came in from Kyla at MongoDB, all the big companies today. She asked, what's one unconventional ABM tactic that surprised you with how well it worked? That's kind of a fun question because, I just got back from a conference yesterday and they typically keep it very high level. But like in the trenches, Alex, have you got any tactics?
Yeah, and you're probably not going to like the answer, but it's asking questions. It's as simple as that, whether it's internally or externally. So internally, you could go and ask your sales rep or your customer success rep and say, hey, can we sit half an hour and do an account interview? I want to know everything about this client, or I want to know everything about this target. Share all the information you have with me. That works really well.
I mean, it doesn't have to be much more complicated than that either. Like, if at all, I think what you said on the last question about all these fancy martech solutions, you can get pulled in a million different directions.
Yeah.
But if you do nail the basics, like you said, it's sales driven, not really marketing driven anyway. So if you're nailing the basics, you're going to break through.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I like martech, but I think there's about 20,000 different martech tools. So if you're constantly trying to get the next tool, and now with AI, everybody's rebranding AI-driven martech, you never know. But information is free. Information is already here, but it's in your team's head. So you have to sit down with them and learn about the accounts you're trying to secure or renew. That's uncommon, but that's free and that works really well. And maybe the second answer to that question, if I can have a second, is try to stick to the perfect basics. Again, very often we try to reinvent the wheel, but try to focus on building real relationships and connections with your customers or your targets. Again, at the end of the day, that's a human being that's going to sign that contract. So build a connection with those people.
Well, you say, I agree, and I'm grateful Elon Musk has not had his way and he's got a chip in our head which automatically links to the CRM, although that would help so much, but, a bit
That's
freaky.
the answer to the last question.
Oh, well, yeah. The other thing, I was at the conference yesterday and the guy did a speech about AI buyers and AI sellers, and it's like they believe that you're going to have AI agents scouring, requesting demos, getting the best offers, and also certain agentic models or whatever will have like budgets. So like, how now humans can have budgets up to like $2,000, $10,000 or whatever. It's like they're thinking about doing that. It's all getting a bit crazy, but yeah I think you are right ultimately.
And scary. And if I can add something to my initial point, asking questions, ask feedback as well. So we know in ABM and sales, we don't win every single deal. Sometimes you lose them, and there's nothing you could have done better, in your opinion. You've done everything you could. But if you lose a deal, ask the non-client, why did we lose? Just just politely, candidly ask, what could we have done better to secure your business? How could we improve? People are happy to respond,
because they feel bad as well. Like no one wants to turn people down. So if in a way it kind of gives them some
Yeah,
closure on it, which is quite nice.
there's a bit of guilt, but you can turn that guilt they feel and make it productive for you.
Hmm.
You've lost a piece of business, but at least win some feedback and learn how you could have done better for the next time. You constantly adjust in marketing, you do some A/B testing, you see what works and apply it, etc. Well, do the same at the end of the funnel when you lose and also when you win. And
And
what
it
made you select our company among all the competitors? Like, just ask the questions.
it makes an interesting case as well, because something going around in our industry and our space is, where's like the leverage? Where should we be looking to run ABM? And a lot of people are saying the closed loss deals, like going back to them. So by doing what you're suggesting, you're almost like, sure, it might be a year away or 2 years away if it's a big, or three, whatever. But like you've planted that good seed in the head that you genuinely cared about them. You're trying to get better, and it will position you for the long haul. Yeah, that's smart. I should probably start doing that. Challenge 4 came in from Jim Jilke, great guy, works at Scrappy ABM, and also hosted the Account Beverages podcast. He asked, where do you go to find real campaign examples or inspiration you can actually use in your own marketing?
So that's a really tough question because I don't really go anywhere for inspiration. We are a very niche specific business. So it's very hard to find examples that have worked for other companies and would work for us. But what I do to try and find inspiration is in our own previous campaigns and programs. What has worked in the past? Why was this specific deal or campaign successful? Whether it was to secure the signature and a contract or raise awareness with a prospect. You've got different stages of the funnel. Sometimes you have to just create that first conversation. Sometimes you have to move the deal through the bottom of the pipeline. What has worked before and try and replicate it. So it's a bit counterintuitive in ABM because we know that every single account is different. And that's the basis of doing ABM, is to adapt to every single situation. But even if each account is different, the buyer's journey is very often comparable. And there's a lot of inspiration that you can get from your previous successful stuff, or as opposed to your previous unsuccessful relationships. Like if you start seeing signals that the deal is looking similar to another deal that you've lost, maybe you need to change something, because if it's taking the same direction, maybe it's going to end up in the same lost deal. So that's where I go for inspiration. When I saw that question in the preparation, I was like, it's not going to like the answer, because genuinely externally, I do struggle to find inspiration. And also because sometimes we try to reinvent the wheel before trying to do like 6 different steps, multi-channel marketing campaign, etc. Well, make sure that all your basics are absolutely spot on, as we keep repeating during this interview. You don't necessarily need inspiration, you need solid basics. And then if nothing works, try that 6-step multi-channel campaign. Maybe that's going to work, but make sure everything before is super clean.
Well, the good news for you, Alex, is you now have ABM Answered library to go to for external insights. However, what you do say makes a lot of sense, and the reason why, because it clicked as you were talking, is it provides context for internal communications, right? So, for example, there's one thing seeing something, a white paper somewhere else, oh, someone did this, and then trying to go to the team and be like, oh, we should try this, we should do that. And then it's like question marks, like why, and then all that preparation. Just like sales now, you can't really like spray and pray. And it's not even a case of like putting in all these like little details you find. It's pure like context driven sales. And what you're doing is like context driven internal communication. That was a lot of words, but you get what I'm saying. And I think that's a totally valid answer. So Jim, you better be happy with that one, unfortunately. Right, challenge 5, Robert Norum. So opportunity Ass, I think is how you pronounce it, but also one of the big dogs at B2B marketing. the huge expo. He asked, what is the optimal split between ABM for existing customers versus new accounts? I know you mentioned you work only on new accounts, which I also agree is probably the hardest type of ABM. And based on your experience, how would you split one-to-one, one-to-few, one-to-many? And I was going to ban you from saying it depends, but I feel like this is a harsh question to ban you from saying that on.
It doesn't depend. I would say in an ideal world, every single account would go on a one-to-one ABM, but this is not an ideal world. So try to evaluate how much resource you have, how many people, how much time, how much alignment between sales and marketing. Identify your best of the best ICP. What type of accounts are you sure you're going to make good money with or good progress with? Because sometimes when you're trying to start, and that's when you start that you have to make those decisions. Am I going for one to many, one to one, one to few? See where you start, and I would probably go with one to few, because one to many is not really ABM if you think about it. It's too far away from proper ABM to be considered ABM.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
It's basically a fancy marketing campaign, or a vertical campaign, or like a market specific campaign. That's too close to traditional marketing. So try with one to few, and in the one to few world, you're probably going to have results with a percentage of these accounts. The big risk with one to one is that you make zero progress. No one believes in your pilot and ends up in the bin. But in the one to few, so it depends. I mean, few could be, I don't know, between 5 and 20, I would say. There's going to be a couple that progress. I mean, that's why I consider one to few, between 5 and 20. Well, between 2 and 20, because otherwise that's one to one. But you're going to have a few progressing, and you can use those as success stories to scale and say, right, we're going to do that again on a different vertical, or we're going to take those few that have progressed and are showing initial positive results and isolate them on one-to-one. Because you've got a little bit of traction already, you double down your efforts on those specific accounts. That's how we do it. When I started, we did one to few, and that helped us build a solid business case to, first of all, continue and have some support from the business, and second, have a couple of on a one-to-one type of program. But again,
all that to say it depends. No, yeah, you're right. A lot of I would also start with one to few as well. It almost accelerates like the research and data that you get in, so that you can make better decisions across one to many and one to one.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you're being brought in to, prove you can make a difference, it's really ballsy, as much as it is the best type of marketing, to do one-to-one, because if it doesn't work out,
unless you have insider trading kind of insights into the account, one-to-one,
which we of course do not do.
No. One-to-one is super risky. So yeah, I would go with one to few. You give yourself enough chances to progress without falling into a kind of mass or mid-sized marketing campaign.
For sure. Okay, challenge 6, customer stories and case studies. So this came in from Kelly Shermahon at Pega Systems, huge company. Shout out Pega as well. Love them. She asked, can you share a detailed success story, including wow, it's kind of like an interview. Can you share a detailed success story, including the challenges and how they were overcome?
So one of the first programs we did was very successful over time. Essentially, the story is we had a vertical where we were having good results and we wanted to double down our efforts on this vertical. So we only had a couple of months to put together a very intensive ABM campaign. We had 3 months. At the end of those 3 months, there was an industry-specific webinar just for those 20-something targets we had identified. So we had to work really, really hard with marketing to do the accounts research, contacts research, produce all the marketing content, distribute it, analyze the results, reshuffle when we needed to reshuffle, because you always get a little bit derailed in your ABM programs, depending on the results you get. Sometimes it works too well, and the 6-step marketing campaign you had in mind, actually after step 3, it's not going to be adapted anymore. But anyway, we had great engagement. We managed to create content that was half templated, which is a bit, again, counterintuitive with ABM. But there was basically some of it that was vertical specific, so very easily replicable, and some of it that was business specific, but with data points about the specific businesses that were very easy to find. I'm talking stuff that you can easily find in an annual report or on the company's website. So that enabled us to quickly create that content, distribute it, and eventually we had, I think, about 18 or 19 of the companies we had in the program joining the webinar at the end of it, which was great success. And eventually, after a couple of years, because it's a long-term game, but it's all about having that initial conversation. That's really when, if you have a good conversion, it's all about that first conversation. So we built a lot of awareness, a lot of engagement and credibility in just 3 months. And I think now, a couple of years later, we work with 80% of the companies that were in that initial program, which is mental when you think about it. It was years later, but that's what really initiated that success.
I feel like you can walk into any ABM job ever with those stats. What year was this, Alex?
Sorry?
What year was this? Like
It was,
webinar?
It was prime COVID. That was 2020.
2020. Yeah.
Well,
that's insane. Like you got that many people to your webinar. I'm going through something similar now, like a digital workshop, and it is a slog. But clearly, I'm not as talented as you, and that's why we have you here today. Right, Challenge 7.
That wasn't again. That was a massive team effort, and
yeah,
it's impossible to do stuff on your own. Like most of the things I do is coordinating other people. You need to coordinate efforts between your research team, your marketing team, your sales rep, everybody. And yeah, it's almost like, everybody likes a football comparison, but you're almost the manager on the side of the pitch. You don't actually play. You're not the one sending email. You're not the one creating the content, but you're here setting the tactics, the strategy, and telling people what they should be doing, what their role is, and make sure everybody execute their parts the best as possible.
Oh, Alex, I had you down as a non-league player manager, the one that comes on at half time.
You're one with the trackies on the side, just ready to get in at anything.
Yeah, they just like whiff off. Alex, are you okay for a couple more minutes? We've got the last question. Cool.
Sure.
Right. So it came in from Chris Rack at Mockingbird. So Chris has had an incredible career in B2B marketing and is now starting his own AI ABM customer success tool called Mockingbird. He asked, and I won't tell you what he thinks first, but is the MQL dying? Is it still relevant, and why? And I know you touched upon, kind of leaning towards sales metrics. So maybe I'm getting a hint of your answer, but yeah, what do you think about that?
I think by calling MQL, you create that split between sales and marketing that you don't want to have in ABM. By saying, oh, this is a marketing lead, or this is a sales lead, or this, you split both departments. And that's the opposite of what you want to achieve. And also your MQL, if they register to that webinar, or if they download this report you've created, surely someone at some point had sent an email to them to invite them to that webinar or to push them to download that report. So you can't really say, oh, that's purely an MQL lead, or that's purely something that sales has generated. Because even if your sales team generate a lead, probably on the other way around, that webinar helped generate that lead, or that report created in marketing helped generate that lead. I think MQL in an ABM environment isn't relevant. Again, because it creates a split, and because there's so many touch points, so many small interactions and actions to create that result that is an MQL, that you can't qualify it as clearly as that. So I would agree it's done.
Interesting. So Sorry, what was that?
It's suffering for sure. It's agonizing. It's not dead yet, but
It's bleeding out.
yeah,
Do you know what? You answered this question in the first 5 seconds by saying it's adding to the divide between sales and marketing.
yeah,
And everyone talks about the two biggest problems being alignment and attribution. I've asked this question to a lot of people, and no, like they've all come up with their own point of view. Some I agree with more than others, but that, my friend, I think is probably the best argument that I've heard as to why we should bin it.
yeah.
Um,
You say
wow.
that to
Okay.
everyone.
Pardon?
You say that to everyone, I'm sure.
No, 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 no. So
Okay.
yeah. Well, I hope they don't mind saying this. But like Robert, we answered one of his questions, and he referenced, I think it's Kerry Cunningham, like the CMO of Six Sense, has been banging on about it for a while. And I often think, a bit like how you don't look at external marketing resources of like for inspiration. I often think, do people say stuff because they hear stuff like, oh, the MQL's dying, is it not? Whereas, and you might have heard what you just said, but ultimately, if you strip away all the noise, what are the problems with ABM? Oh, alignment. Oh, attribution. And is this helping? Is it not? Well, it's not helping, that's for sure. Um, yeah. So anyway, very very good answer. Good, strong ending. So the last two things, just for fun. So we build a lot of tools at ABM Answered. We used to build a lot more, not so many anymore. But if you could invent a tool or technology, and what I typically say is, if you can't think of anything marketing related, maybe it's like a smart bath or something. I don't know, that warms up the water. That probably exists. What would it be?
So we talked about the brain chip that extracts the knowledge of people and put it in Salesforce.
Mm-hmm.
Without putting a brain chip in anyone's brain, I would love to have what's in people's knowledge
Yeah.
in my CRM because that would save me so much time. And that would save them so much time as well. Because how many times I've heard someone saying, "We're talking to this company again. We talked to them 2 years ago, but lost the deal. What happened? I can't really remember. Like, who was the person we talked to?"
Or they move
Even
on.
themselves, they can't remember sometimes.
Mm.
So, and when people say that, you don't want to be the guy that says, "I told you so," but yeah, I told you so. Put stuff in
The,
Salesforce, Put
well,
put
they,
everything you know. Like how many times as well, there's contacts missing. You see an email chain, there's 10 people in copy, and you've got two of them in Salesforce.
it's maybe that new Sam Altman, Johnny Ive or whatever OpenAI thing. Have you seen it? Like they're bringing it out. It's like a necklace that you wear. Maybe you like switch it to business mode, and it's like updating CRMs. Because also, it's not just video calls, is it? It's like when you go to meetings and things. And like I've worked in sales, and I must have driven the people I worked with insane because I can't be bothered to update it. It's like, well, it's not helping me because I know it all, like, but
Yeah,
like you need to
I
be like
remember that, but you
unselfish.
need to write down, and then 6 months later, you wish, you wish you had.
Bam.
Who was that guy's name? Too late.
Too late. You've missed out on a
Yeah.
fat commission check. Right. Last question, Alex. Do you have a question, query, challenge, or anything for the above that you would like me to ask our next guest, which will be on Friday?
Okay, so and I think that's the case for everyone, but when a contact doesn't engage on email marketing, LinkedIn, like digital content, what do you do? Like, what extra magical
Mhm.
channel do you have? Some people do physical mailing because nowadays you get hundreds of emails every day. But how many letters or how many parcels do you get? Probably less. I hope you don't get 100 parcels every day. But yeah, does it work? What other channels outside of these traditional digital ones? What others do you have? How do you use them, and does it actually work? I would say that's my main question because we've been there before. You send emails, no one responds. You send campaigns, no one engage. You try and connect on LinkedIn, saying, "Okay, I'm just going to go there and knock on the door." But yeah, apart from that, what can you do when you get blocked at that point?
I have so many. I would love to. Yes, that's a great question. And the reason I like the question is it's so open ended, right? It really kind of caters for those that are creative. I will get that asked and hopefully get your first response by Friday.
Great.
Alex,
Looking
thank
forward to
you
it.
so much for joining.
Well, thanks a lot for the invite. It's the first time I do it, so it's very very good, very I would say rewarding. And yeah, looking forward
Nice.
to maybe do more of that, or I don't know, but that was really cool. Thank you.
Well, I'm honored I didn't stop the recording when you said that because now I can just play that 30 seconds back again and again. But yeah, I appreciate it. Right. Cheers, Alex.
Thanks, Sam.